What's up, everyone? I'm Chad Cordeiro, printer at David Krut Projects. Thank you for watching the previous videos. If you haven't, please check them out. Today I'm gonna show you guys how to hand print linocut plates. This one, to be precise. What we're gonna go through today is inking up the plate and printing using a wooden spoon. The two different types of paper that I'm going to use to show you is one that you may or may not have access to at home. Sheet from a moleskin notebook. So I cut a sheet quite nicely from one of my notebooks that I have. Moleskin notebooks and notebooks of that kind are usually acid-free and archival, so they would work as fine art prints. It's how neatly you print, crop, and display them. Another one I will show you, which will feed into the next video, is how to print sheet of Arch cover white, and how this will feed into the next video is layering. First thing I'm going to do is kind of make a makeshift registration on the plate. Because we're printing by hand, we're obviously not going to be using a press. We're going to be making a registration on top of the plate because the paper is smaller than the image area of the plate. So the first thing you want to do is pick a space that you like. I'm going to choose the space over here, align the paper, and mask off the area that you're going to be printing. Now that that's done, you have registration marks for your paper. Now it's time to ink up the block. So as you guys can see, I've laid out an ink slab here. We went over how to lay out ink and roll up a slab in one of the early relief videos. So the ink that I have here is a mixture of Intaglio Printmaker Opaque White and Hanko CS700 Standard Palette Process Black. So this is a half and half mixture. And it's about ready. So remember the orange peel texture that you're looking for on the slab and on the roller, and we're ready. Okay, before we start inking, I'm gonna make sure that the registration fits one more time, and then to make life a little bit easier, so that the paper will not shift once we start printing. So now that the paper is on a tape hinge, lined up on the plate to the registration marks, and we won't have to try place the paper when the plate's already inked. Okay, so we're ready to start inking now. Okay, now I can start inking the plate. So when you're inking, generally when you're inking a plate you want to pay attention, but when you're printing by hand, it's super important to get even, consistent coverage and know that there's enough ink on the plate. Because printing on a press, it's a lot quicker and easier to just ink up another print and ink up the plate and print it again if your inking isn't correct. But with hand printing, the process takes so much longer than if you're printing with an etching press. So it's really important in terms of time and energy to make sure that the plate is evenly, consistently covered with ink and that there's enough to transfer onto the paper when you're ready to print. I would like a little bit more ink on this plate, so I'm gonna go put some more ink on the roller now and continue inking. Okay, pretty happy with that. The roller went over the plates a little bit, so I'm going to clean that off. Now we can start printing. Okay, now that it's time to print, we can remove our tape tabs that we used for inking. And we have a clean area to print from. So what I'm going to be using to print today is a wooden spoon, a newsprint backing that we're going to put over the paper. I'm going to use newsprint because I guess it's more easily accessible. If we're printing on moleskin notebook paper, newsprint is a good idea if you don't have acetate at home. So now I'm going to lay this paper flat and gently run my hand over the surface to make sure that the plates and the ink is making contact with the paper so that it kind of sticks a little bit, just so that it's not moving. Suction from the ink onto the paper will hold the paper fairly flat. There we go. Now we can start printing. So you want to hold the spoon like so, put pressure onto the area that you're going to be printing with your thumb, and applying quite a bit of pressure, you're rubbing the surface. You want to make sure you're getting every spot. Okay, now we're going to remove the backing. When you're printing on thinner papers, you can see already how well it printed because they're generally see-through. So what you want to do now is very, very carefully, without shifting your print, remove the tape and lift the print. I'm going to use the edge of a blade So even though it's just a section of the plates, I think we have pretty good print here. Okay, so as usual, tests are key. Very seldom do you know how anything is going to pan out from the beginning. So these are the terrible tests that I completed before we got to this final one over here. These are different paper tests. So as you can see, the Somerset 300 gram soft white printed terribly. The paper is really soft and fluffy. It works great for relief prints on an etching press usually. I really couldn't get enough pressure with the spoon to get consistent prints because it's super fluffy. It kept shifting on the plates and I really struggled with this one. The Arch printed really well and that's why it's finding its way into our next demo, and so did the moleskin notebook paper. I preferred the gray to the black in this case. So yeah, this is what we ended up with. An artist's or a work to look at that's quite surprising that was printed by hand, but was printed by hand, is Mary Wafer's Veneer 2. It's a large woodcut 2 layers that were printed by hand, printed at David Krut Workshop. It's a really great example of quite a sizable work being printed from start to finish by hand. This has been fun as usual. Chad Cordeiro, printer at David Krut Workshop, signing out. Thank you for joining us for this demo and stay tuned for the next ones. They're going to be really fun. Peace.